What did let me dance a little so then Sunday to Melam Santo La Sabayone on the sun. Then they say not a mag in the wrong lady did it on the Partani. Then let me go on the chat on the only talked about the Hungries.
So in this way, as we concentrate into the Guru Yoga, practice with the sincere and devoted mind, and also doing the refuge and bodhicitta practices and the rest of all other practice, in that way where one can purify one's obscurations and afflictive emotions and karma, and then based on that, as one receives the blessing, then one could have the experience and realizations.
Not too much over it, but temple on the mountains, Khenchen Tsewang Gyatso. Not too much trouble, then the Kaleka.
So these practices is also important, that how you could have a very concentrated mind, not getting distracted and not going through all sorts of conceptual thoughts. And if in case one's mind is distracted with all sorts of conceptual thoughts, then again it is more difficult to have the actual result. So this our mind, of course, it is something very difficult to control. So this cannot be still even for one moment, how much all sorts of thoughts just arise. So as long as there is the conceptual thought arising, that is everything based on the afflictive emotions, all those poison, there is nothing more else. So as we engage into the Dharma practice, and then concentrating into the mind, then only we know how much conceptual thoughts are arising and how much of this discriminating thought just arises within oneself, until to that oneself even not aware of it. The Dharma practice is, of course, mainly to subdue one's mind and tame one's mind, through which one can pacify everything. So if one could tame one's mind very properly, then the rest of all the qualities that can just arise within oneself. So if we could not pacify or could not tame our mind, then it is also more difficult to receive the blessing of the Dharma itself. So that is why that in all the time, in all aspect, that important to concentrate and watch one's mind, how we could stabilize our mind and without getting distracted or not arising conceptual thought. That is very important. All the past great bodhisattvas and masters that working with one's mind and then they taming it, and then through which they could subdue it properly, and through that they could have all this realization and the accomplishment in enlightenment. So if we think of whether we have any kind of realization experience or not, or whether we could receive the blessing or not, you can just examine your own mind, how that your minds are constantly giving rise to all sorts of conceptual thought, then how that possible one could have that blessing. So that is why, in all the time and all the aspect, that to stabilize one's mind and to concentrate in that way, it's really important. So, of course, we want to just benefit and accomplish with the two purpose, like oneself and all other beings. But if one could not tame one's mind, then it is hard to really benefit other beings. So that is why in all the time, in our day-to-day lifetime, try to work with one's mind, that how one can get rid of all these conceptual thoughts and try to get rid of the afflictive emotions, and that what it is the main concentration to do the practice. And at the same time, one need to give rise to these great compassion and loving kindness to all apparently sentient beings equal to just space, and also concentrate into the practice of the receiving and just sending, known as the tonin. So all these practices also one could to experience or accomplish when one's mind is very stable and properly tamed. Otherwise, it is difficult to have any experience. So, as we are here for the retreat, so during the retreat time, if one just work hard and try to really practice properly, of course we can just get some experience and some development. So, in case if we could tame a little bit of our mind here during the retreat time, then of course when we go back into just into home, then still there will be some sense of kind of subduing one's mind. So it is try to work that one's body, speech, mind, constantly be just relaxed and experiencing more peaceful. So these human beings, of course, that they could see all sorts of things, and then according to that they give rise to conceptual thought, and then rest of all afflictive emotions just arise. So how our just conceptual minds are in such a way. For example, like if somebody says that which is on your face is that nose, then even you kind of like feel like if this is not nose, then what is that? One easily get angry. So similar like that for just very simple and small things, that how we give rise to all sorts of afflictive emotions. So in that way, just try to understand, and then of course there are the teachings, and try to contemplate on the meaning of those teachings. Try to really just be in your being. So then do the practice well. Thank you.
Oh yeah.